Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Well, today we're tackling Mahashivratri in Nepal.
Sounds interesting.
It is. But we're not just skimming the surface. We've got this really cool piece by Shankar Man Singh.
Oh, yeah, I read that one. Originally published in Nepali back in 2025.
Exactly. And it got me thinking, how does this festival connect to history and religion and all that?
Yeah. I mean, he starts off talking about secularism, which,
Right. Secularism, you wouldn't expect that with a religious festival.
and Nepal is a secular nation. It's in their constitution.
Hmm.
But the author, he compares it to, like, the UK and the USA.
Yeah. They're secular too, but religion still matters there.
It makes you wonder, what does secularism actually mean? Is it about getting rid of faith or just making sure everyone can believe what they want?
That's a good point. And even though Nepal's secular, it seems like Lord Shiva is still super important to a lot of people there.
Totally. Like a guardian, almost.
So where does this Pashupati thing come in? I always thought it meant Lord of the Animals.
Yeah, a lot of people think that, but it's actually way bigger. It means Lord of all beings, not just animals.
Oh, so humans too.
Humans, everything.
Hmm.
You see it in the Ayurveda. They talk about Pashupati ruling over everything that walks on two legs and everything that walks on four.
Huh. That reminds me of how the Upanishads describe Brahman, that ultimate reality, like the source of everything.
Exactly. It's all connected.
Yeah.
There's even this verse in the Shvatashvatara Upanishad. It says, "He who is the Lord of the gods, in whom the worlds find their support, who rules over all two-legged and four-legged beings come. Let us serve that God, radiant and joyful, with sacrifice."
Wow, that's pretty intense.
Right. And it's talking about a God who basically governs everything.
So is this Pashu as all beings thing, is that in other Vedic texts too?
Yep, you find it in the Atharva Veda as well. It's like this core idea that Pashu isn't just animals, it's all living things.
And that leads us to Pashupatinath.
Right, Pashupatinath. So Pashupatinath is super important in Hinduism,
Yeah.
especially in Nepal.
Yeah, and the Pashupatinath temple in Kathmandu, that's like the most sacred spot in the whole country, isn't it?
You got it, right there on the banks of the Bagmati River. And inside, there's this amazing five-face depiction of Pashupatinath.
5 faces, what's that all about?
Each face is a different avatar of Lord Shiva, and they represent the 5 elements in Hinduism: earth, water, fire, air, and ether.
Whoa, so like the whole universe is wrapped up in this one deity.
Pretty much. And then you've got the idol itself,
Mhm.
a 5-face linga sitting on Nandi, Shiva's bull.
Lots of symbolism there. What's it all mean?
Well, it shows how all these parts of Shiva, even the elements of the universe, they're all linked together.
It's deep, man.
It is deep. But we got to talk about Shiva as the destroyer, too. There's this story, the Tripura Samhara. It's the destruction of these 3 cities of illusion.
Wait, hold up. Destruction of cities? Tell me more.
So in this epic story, Shiva becomes the lord of the demons. And he destroys these 3 cities, ruled by the Asuras. They represent all the bad stuff, like ignorance and ego.
So even though he's destroying stuff, he's fighting against negativity.
Exactly. And the idea is, even humans, when we get all caught up in ourselves and lose our compassion, we can be like Pashu, like mindless creatures just acting on instinct.
Whoa, so by worshiping Pashupati, we can break free from that.
That's one way to see it. It's a path towards escaping ignorance. But there's also Shiva as the ascetic, the viragi. You know how he's always shown meditating, totally detached from worldly things.
Yeah, covered in ash, simple clothes. What's up with that look?
It's all about letting go of material stuff. The ash symbolizes that everything eventually returns to dust. Shiva's not bothered by praise or insults because he understands it's all temporary.
That's a heavy message, especially these days. But how does this all tie back into Mahashivratri itself?
Well, Mahashivratri is a Hindu festival that honors Lord Shiva. Usually happens in February or March.
Is there a reason they celebrate it then?
Actually, there are a few reasons. It's considered the anniversary of Shiva and Parvati's marriage. It marks the cosmic dance of creation and destruction. And it's also when Shiva saved the world by drinking poison.
Intense. So how do people actually celebrate?
Lots of ways. Fasting, all-night vigils, chanting mantras, offering prayers.
What's that mantra everyone chants?
Om Namah Shivaya. It's said to be super powerful, especially during the fast.
Cool. Before we get too deep into the celebration itself, there's this story I found super interesting. It's about the Kapaleshwar Mahadev temple. It depicts Nandi and Shiva in a really unique way.
Oh yeah, in that temple, Nandi is the guru, the teacher, and Shiva's the disciple.
Hold on, Shiva the destroyer is learning from Nandi, a bull.
Yep, The story goes that Shiva, in a moment of anger, chopped off Brahma's head.
Yikes.
Right. And killing a Brahmin is a huge sin. It's called Brahmahatya. So Shiva needs to be purified.
And he goes to Nandi for help.
Exactly. He seeks guidance from this innocent bull. It shows that even Shiva, this incredibly powerful god, needs help sometimes. And that humility, being willing to learn from anyone, is super important.
That's amazing. Even Shiva had to put his ego aside. It makes you think about how much we can all learn from each other.
It does, and it ties into this idea that Shankarman Singh brings up about Pashupati. He says, Pashupati is a Sanskrit word formed from two words, Pashu, which means animal, and Pati, which means protector. Thus, Pashupati literally means the god who protects animals.
But we were saying before that Pashu doesn't just mean animals, right? It's all beings.
Bingo. Shiva, as Pashupati, protects everyone and everything, not just physically, but spiritually too. He's guiding us away from ignorance, from all those animalistic tendencies that hold us back.
So Mahashivratri is about recognizing the Pashu inside ourselves, those parts of us that are holding us back.
That's the heart of it. And it's not just about celebrating, it's about transforming. It's about connecting with your true self, that divine essence that goes beyond ego and ignorance.
That's really powerful. So we're not just celebrating, we're working towards something.
It's a journey. And Shankarman Singh, he also points out this interesting thing about how Shiva looks. Like, most gods, they're all decked out in jewels and fancy robes.
Yeah, all blinged out.
Right. But Shiva's different. He's a viragi, an ascetic, renounced all those material things. Simple clothes covered in ash.
Gosh, what's the deal with that?
It's a symbol,
Yeah.
It reminds us that all that stuff, wealth, beauty, it doesn't last. Everything turns to dust in the end.
It's deep.
It is. And Shiva gets that. He's not swayed by praise or criticism because he understands that it's all fleeting.
It's a good reminder, for sure, especially nowadays with everyone obsessed with what they have and how they look.
Totally. Shiva's look is like a wake-up call. It tells us to look inside, find true happiness beyond the surface.
So it's not about denying yourself nice things. It's about focusing on what really matters.
Exactly. And this connects to another big thing about Shiva, meditation. He's always shown in deep samadhi, completely detached from the world.
Like he's found this inner peace that nothing can touch.
And that's something we can all tap into, even if we don't reach Shiva's level.
So we could find that peace through our own meditation practices.
For sure. It's there for us to explore, It's something to cultivate. And speaking of connecting with Shiva's energy, that brings us back to Mahashivratri.
Right. We talked about why they celebrate it, the marriage, the cosmic dance, the poison thing. But it seems like Shankarman Singh is saying there's even more to it.
Yeah, he really emphasizes this concept of Pashu. We were saying earlier how it refers to all beings, humans included.
Right. And how when we're selfish and not compassionate, we're kind of acting like Pashu, like unthinking creatures.
Exactly. So during Mahashivratri, it's about moving beyond that animalistic state, connecting with your true self, that divine spark within you.
So it's like a spiritual reset, a chance to let go of those negative habits and become something more.
I like that, a spiritual reset.
Yeah.
And all the things they do during Mahashivratri, the fasting, the vigils, the chanting, it's all part of that transformation.
Can you break that down a bit? Like, what do those practices actually do?
Sure. So fasting, it purifies your body and mind, makes you more open to spiritual energy.
Okay.
The all-night vigils, they're about overcoming darkness and ignorance. Chanting mantras focuses your mind, helps you connect with divine vibrations. And the prayers, that's expressing gratitude and devotion.
Wow. It's intense, but also really powerful.
It is. And chanting Om Namah Shivaya, that's key, especially during Mahashivratri.
It's amazing how much power there is in a simple phrase like that. But honestly, with all these stories and concepts, it's a lot to take in.
I hear ya. But let's go back to that story about the Kapaleshwar Mahadev temple. It's not just a random story. It really connects to the heart of Mahashivratri.
The one where Nandi is the guru and Shiva is the student.
Yeah. And why does Shiva go to Nandi for guidance? Because he committed Brahmahatya. Remember, that's the sin of killing a Brahmin.
Right, right.
So he needs help to be free from that sin.
And he goes to Nandi, the bull.
Exactly. And it shows that no matter how powerful you are, you're going to make mistakes. And when you do, you need to be humble enough to ask for help, even if it comes from an unexpected place.
It's pretty humbling to think that Shiva, the supreme god, needed help and found it in a bull.
It really makes you think about how we can all learn from each other, right? No one has all the answers.
Yeah, it's like that saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Totally. And sometimes the teacher comes in the most unexpected form.
Like a bull.
Yeah.
But seriously, this whole deep dive into Mahashivratri has been eye-opening. It's not just about the festival, it's about this whole journey of like recognizing the potential for both darkness and light within
It's all
ourselves.
about growth, right?
Yeah.
And as we keep exploring this piece by Shankarman Singh, he brings up this interesting paradox about Shiva. He's the destroyer, but he also protects.
We talked about that before, the Tripura Samhara, how he destroyed those cities. Like he destroys to create something new.
You got it. And it's cool how this connects back to the whole Pashu idea. Remember how we were saying Pashu represents all beings, especially when they're acting out of ego and selfishness?
Right, like the opposite of compassion.
Exactly. So when Shiva destroys, could it be that he's also destroying the Pashu within us? Those negative qualities that hold us back from evolving?
Whoa, that's deep. Like he's helping us shed those layers of like ignorance and illusion that keep us from reaching our full potential.
It's a powerful way to look at it. And the things they do during Mahashivratri, the fasting, the vigils, the chanting, it all seems designed to push us past our limits.
Yeah, like a spiritual boot camp. You're forced to confront those old patterns and break free.
And Shankarman Singh actually talks about this. He says Shiva does this to show that all materialistic things, including the beautiful physical body that we are always proud of, are perishable. That is why he puts the ashes of cremation on his body.
It's like a big screw you to materialistic values. He's showing us that real happiness isn't about stuff or status. It's got to come from somewhere deeper.
And Mahashivratri is the perfect time to remember that. It's a time to look inward, connect with your true self.
That divine spark.
Exactly. It's a reminder that the most important journey is the one within.
Love that. Maybe that's the true meaning of Mahashivratri. Finding that peace and stillness that Shiva embodies.
Couldn't said it better myself.
Yeah.
And remember, you're not alone on this journey. Shiva, as Pashupati, is there to guide and protect you.
That's comforting. But I've got to admit, this whole Pashu thing still kind of throws me. It's like, it's the animalistic stuff we're trying to overcome. But Shiva, as Pashupati, is also the protector of Pashu. How does that work?
It's definitely a paradox. But maybe that's the whole point. We all have both the Pashu and the divine within us. It's not about getting rid of the Pashu completely. It's about finding balance.
So we integrate those primal instincts with our higher consciousness.
Exactly. It's about accepting all parts of yourself, even the messy bits. Maybe that's what Shiva, as Pashupati, is ultimately teaching us.
To love ourselves, flaws and all.
Yeah. And to see that divine spark in everyone, even the wildest Pashu. And Shankarman Singh makes a great point about Pashupatinath's significance, particularly in Nepal. He says Pashupatinath is revered by the Hindu community worldwide, but his significance is even greater in Nepal. In Nepal, Pashupatinath is considered the national deity.
That's amazing. Even in a secular country, faith can still play such a big role. It shapes culture, brings people together.
For sure. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Mahashivratri, what have we learned? What can we take away from all this?
Well, for me, it's about embracing paradox, seeing how seemingly opposite things can actually coexist, like destruction and creation, our animal nature and our divine potential.
Absolutely. And it's about being humble enough to seek guidance, recognizing that we don't have all the answers, and remembering that even destruction can be a necessary part of growth, both for ourselves and the world around us.
And maybe most importantly, remembering that we're all in this together. We're all on this journey of evolution, and there's a divine force watching over us.
Well said. As you reflect on all this, here's one last thought.
Right.
What if celebrating Mahashivratri isn't just about a single night or festival, but about living these principles every day? How can you embody the spirit of Shiva, the destroyer and protector, in your own life?
That's a powerful question. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this journey. We hope you've gained some new insights into Mahashivratri and that you'll keep exploring this ancient tradition.